This is Mobile Agent TV, helping agents stay on the cutting edge from coast to coast.
Welcome to Mobile Agent TV. I am Michael Thorne of Remax Little Oak Realty in Langley, BC, and my co-host, as always, is Dave Falkware from Bridgewater, New Jersey's Remax Preferred Professionals in the Enviro Realty team. Dave, favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Stuffing.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Now, do you guys call it stuffing, or you call it dressing in the States?
Both, but stuffing, mainly stuffing. Vanessa made a very cool one this year. It was really good. It was like the best so far.
And how was? We had a couple weeks off here, Dave. We got some time to recharge here to our last little push towards Christmas time. How was your time off?
That was okay. We were very, very busy. It's actually I had a record yesterday. Actually, today. Took 6 listings in one day.
You took 6 listings in one day.
One day, yeah. Well, 5 of them are from the same guy, but that's okay. Still, 6 listings in one day. So it's a lot of work, you know.
Well, I'll take that. That's awesome. During the broadcast, you can interact with us live using the hashtag MATVLive, as well as you can use the Q&A feature here on the blog. You can ask us questions, and it's not loading for me. We are live. We're not loading for me. That was from Terry. Maybe some people are having some problems getting on. I know that we're having a problem getting Jason on, but no sweat. We'll push forward. If you have any questions, put them in the blog, vote them up, vote them down, and then we'll get them asked of our guests today. We have one more show before we take a month off over the holidays. We will return in mid-January. Our last show is with Seth Price of Playster. We're talking about online content. The content that Playster puts out week in and week out is amazing, and we want to talk about the value of content and how agents can go ahead and put together a content plan, as well as talk about websites and online presence in general. He's an expert in the real estate industry when it comes to that sort of stuff, so it's exciting to have Seth on. We got asked by a bunch of people if we're going to do, like last year, Dave, a big end of the year. We had 12 guests in one episode. We're not going to do that this year, but we have so many amazingly big, exciting shows coming for you in 2015. We're going to have a lot of really great stuff, and it's looking like it's going to be the best year for the show ever. We kind of hit our stride this year, Dave. We got comfortable after the initial year, and this has been fantastic. Before we get into the show, we do want to make announcements about R4 in the participation of both myself and Dave. So go ahead, Dave. It was officially announced this week. Let our audience know what you're going to be up to at this year's R4.
Well, Vanessa and I are going to actually. This was something that Michael kind of pushed. Michael and Valerie Garcia, and we made a suggestion to some of the powers that be at LLC to have more non-panel type discussions where you had, with the panels, there's 4 people sitting up there, and you get 10 minute, and you get a lot of different opinions and approaches. And Michael thought that it's a good idea to have agents just 1 whole hour, get up there, get the whole get that going. And so it was proposed, and Vanessa and I are going to do 1 hour of our old title from back in the beginning, how to infuse WOW into your listing presentation. So, and a number of other people who actually, it really looks like a Mobile Agent TV guest list.
Yeah, I noticed that. I mean, that's not intentional. It's just that we've reached out to these really amazing people in the Remax organization the last 2 years, and it's no surprise that people like Chris Spiker and Lee Brown and Nathan Dart, those sort of people are all taking the stage. Brett Carthorpe, all these people are former guests of the show. A really bunch of smart people. Now, infusing your listing with WOW presentation, Dave, is sort of how you and I connected initially. When we gave that presentation, not the same way you and Vanessa do, which is phenomenal. Encourage everyone to go take a look at it. There was standing room only for us, literally standing room only. Really encourage people to take in that presentation, as well as if you're looking to improve your listing presentation. I think Nathan Dart is also going to talk about listings and doing that, and it still is the key driver to a really successful business is the listing side of it. There's no doubt about it, and it's a skill set that I think is paramount for a really successful agent. We see a lot of these teams on the show, Dave. The one thing that the team leader normally does is go out on the listing presentations, because that part is so important in building a business. So it's going to be a huge value. And I'm going to be giving a presentation a really honest presentation about the wrench doesn't make a good mechanic when it comes to social media. I'm going to be telling you honestly why a lot of people are struggling with social media, and some people might not like what I have to say, but it's going to be a really great presentation. So we'll be doing that one too as well. But I do want to get on today's show. Hopefully we do. Jason, we have you.
Can you guys hear me at least?
Yeah, we can hear you. Fantastic. So
yeah, sorry about the video.
Yeah, we have no video for Jason, but we'll hear him. And now we can focus on his incredible New England accent while he's on the show. I would like to introduce Jason Amiss, who is the owner at Remax Insight. And as always, we read out our guest's 160 Twitter bio. You can get Remax Insight at Remax Insight. And their bio reads, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Maine, I believe, ME. Locations are in Salem, Dover, Manchester, Seabrook Beach, Dartmouth, Methuen?
Drake and Methuen, Mass. Yep.
Oh my goodness gracious. Remax Catalyst and Power Broker of 2013, 2014, and 2014 Inc. 5000 honoree. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
And also would like to introduce John Mangas. He is the broker and co-owner over at Remax Preferred Associates. You can get him on Twitter at Metro Toledo John. His 160 Twitter bio reads, broker co-owner at Remax Preferred Associates, the #1 Remax agency in Northern Ohio, serving Metro Toledo with 3 offices and 90 plus minus high productive agents. Welcome to the show, John.
Glad to be here.
First question for you, John. Where does the expression Holy Toledo come from?
You know, I don't have an answer for that, Michael. I could make something up, though.
No, only want facts. Only facts.
Google it.
Google that. That's your answer to everything.
There you go.
So just get us started. You get Vanessa on that. That's our crack.
Working on it over here now.
Yeah.
We'll come up before the end of the show. We'll find out where that came from.
Fantastic. Jason, first start with you. Let our audience know about your history in the real estate space.
Sure. Well, we've been open about 5.5 years. Our first office was in Salem, New Hampshire, and we're about 30 miles north of Boston. For those of you guys that have not been into the New England area, and just had a love for real estate. I'm sure, like most of the folks that are listening, had a love for real estate, owned some real estate commercially, residentially, and the opportunity came up in 2008 where the franchise was available, and I took the chance and jumped at it, and perfect timing, right? The height of the worst market ever. And we just continued to, persevere and push through it. And we knew that if we could survive the extreme downturn and grow through it, we would do very well.
And same question to you, John. Your history in the real estate space.
Sure. I was actually going to the University of Toledo, and one of my professors was a realtor. And he pulled me aside after class and suggested I take the real estate classes as electives toward my degree. Got licensed at 19, got my broker's license at 24, and really it's all I've ever done. So in 2001, my business partner Kathy and I bought our first Remax franchise, bought a couple other franchises to serve other parts of the market, and in 2014 we'll do somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,600 transaction sides, and we have about 90 agents.
Fantastic. Now, this is, to me, Dave, one of these shows where before I go into it, I'm like, there's going to be some great conversation here because we've talked for the last 2 years generally with agents and teams, and we haven't really looked at the broker. But the broker model is changing more than it has ever. For the past 20 years, most real estate offices have always looked the same. Like no matter where you went, if you were on the East Coast or in Canada, in the States, they looked the same. You went in the front door, there was a receptionist, there was a bunch of small offices. There was a change about 10 years ago when there was bullpens put into a lot of these offices because people were working out of home. But generally, the real estate office hasn't changed a whole lot, not only how it looks, but how it functions. And Jason and John are definitely pushing the envelope as far as how a real estate office functions, and because of that, how it goes ahead and look. So I want to paint a picture about where we are in the industry right now. We've talked about a lot of agents on the show that have pushed the envelope, but the agent has the ability to be a lot more nimble than an office does. An office isn't as nimble as an individual agent. So the average age of a real estate agent, based on NAR stats, is 57. And so offices, for the most part, like I said, have been a collection of offices, a collection of individuals doing their own independent businesses. On the other hand, we have the millennial generation coming through, which is a whole lot more of a collaborative style of human being. They want to work with other people. They want to be in an office where other people look like them. So going forward, we'll start with you, John. How does an office that has a bunch of individual offices, has an agent of an average age of 57, appeal to the first 5 or 6 millennials, and therefore those millennials will then appeal to the next coming in millennials? How does that offset work when the age is so skewed and the offices haven't changed for so long?
Great question, and let me start with the middle of the recession. We saw our local board numbers drop by almost half. When half the people left our industry, along with that went a lot of our recruiting opportunities, because typically inside the RE/MAX space, we're looking for people that've got some experience, but they want to take their career to that next level, right? Well, what Kathy and I quickly discovered is that our A-list quit the business, and most of our B-list did too. And the folks that were still in it, many of them, they didn't have one more move left in them. They're north of that 57, more like in their 60s. They're staying put. So we had to go find a way to reach out to that millennial generation and find a way to acclimate our office and our systems to meet their expectations. So how do you do that without alienating your top producers and your folks that are paying you a monthly fee to work in an environment that they're already comfortable in? So we created kind of a hybrid environment where we have sort of the cafe model where people can come in and park and jump on their iPad or their MacBook and jump in the Wi-Fi, set at the high top table, have a coffee and sort of the Starbucks approach. But we also have the private offices and some shared spaces. So we've really had to be kind of a hybrid and sort of be all things to all people.
Jason, sort of similar question to you. How do you manage the veteran agent with looking for a person that clearly is building a business, and Jason, you want to be in business 15 years from now, and those 57-year-olds won't be? How do you do both at the same time?
Exactly. It's a very interesting challenge, and one that is not lost on us for sure. I mean, to your earlier comments on stats and demographics, it's something that it's pretty much in line with what we've seen, and at least in our first, I would say, 3 to 4 years of business. We've done a number of mergers and new office openings, and with that, our demographic internally has actually trended down. So we are aware of that, and it's something that it's an interesting dilemma in that you want to be able to interview new agents, folks that are entering the business for the first time, folks that are more of the millennial age. But you also, to John's point, you also don't want to rock the boat too much with an established great group of agents that you already have. So you need to start to find a good transition and a good model that can at least accommodate, if you will, a handful of millennials at a time or new agents at a time, whether that be through a mentorship program or whether that be through an aggressive and creative team building program that takes existing team members and team leaders and starts to absorb and transition millennials, new agents, et cetera, into that atmosphere. And then the other thing that we want to look at very seriously, to your comment, Michael, is on folks that are exiting the business and looking at our merger experience and expertise and treat it the exact same way and have agents that are looking to exit that business actually sell their business and sell it to either newer agents, up and coming, whether they're related to that agent or not, and really start to trend the business to more of a value add perspective as they exit the industry.
Dave, on that note, you see the average age in your office is older. Definitely in the offices that we have out here, they tend to be younger, and one of the reasons why our office is a little bit more younger and vibrant is because there's vibrant and younger people here. And when people come through the front door and you're trying to recruit, I think especially for much more of my generation, we want to see people that sort of look like us. For the first 15 years I was in the business, I was the youngest person in my office for 15 straight years. I was the youngest one by a country mile, and as I aged, there was no one else behind me. So what have you noticed that being and the value of adding some new exciting energy into an office? Because you guys are a little bit detached because you're a team, but how does that affect your brokerage overall, Dave?
Well, I think it's a challenge for them. I mean, because we have mainly older agents and have been in that particular office, and we're one of the most successful RE/MAX offices in our market in Bridgewater, and the agents that have been there for a very long time. I mean, we're looking for millennials on our team, and I would think the challenges for us to go recruit those people are the same challenges the broker owner has if he or she wants to try to recruit millennials to their office. In the Northeast, or at least where we are, there's not a lot of millennials that are actually coming into the business, at least that I see. And my question actually would be for both these guys is what resources do you guys use? I mean, to find newer agents of that age group that to either join a team or join your office, because actually, quite frankly, I would prefer brand new people over experienced people. They don't have any bad habits. You can train them. You can teach them. You know, and I'm an older guy, so it's a little harder to do. But where do you find them? I mean, you know, what are your approaches? Where do you go to job fairs? I mean, talk a little bit about that if you would.
Yeah, this is Jason. We haven't done that. We haven't made a proactive effort to go after younger agents. I think for the last, I would say, 2.5 years, we've been very focused on our merger and acquisition strategy. We have been growing through the merger of other great offices that typically have more experienced agents. We have not made a proactive, concerted effort to go to job fairs, etc. A lot of the new people that have interviewed with us have come in, you know, by them finding us and asking questions and hearing that RE/MAX is the brand to be with, etc. And then, quite frankly, referrals. People internally that, you know, said that they know so-and-so and somebody that's getting their license, and either they want them on their team or they think they would be a value-added person on the team, and would we interview. And that's kind of how we've done it so far, and it's something that we definitely need to work on in the future.
John,
John, you.
Sure.
John.
In the last 3 years, we've probably recruited somewhere in the neighborhood of 23 or to 25 Gen Y millennial agents. So we're really very invested in that process and in that demographic. And the average age in our office is actually, we've been able to bring it down to about 44. So, wow. You know, those folks will push me to retirement someday. I'm in no hurry yet. But at any rate, we do a little bit of everything. You know, the connections that our agents that we already have with us feed us for millennial agents is by far the best. My business partner Kathy and I both teach at one of the pre-licensed schools in our market. We work LinkedIn. We tabulate the new agent licensees from the Ohio Division of Real Estate site. We get their email addresses. We put them in a BombBomb distribution list. Every Monday I do a video and include them, you know, kind of in that broker before you're their broker thing. So we really put a lot of lines in the water to try and get, you know, as many of those fish as fit our business model. You know, I'll be honest with you, not every millennial is a good fit for us and for RE/MAX. You know, they might need to start out at a traditional company if they don't have the wherewithal, and you know, if they just can't commit to the business.
And on that note, I don't want to, because Dave's on, I don't want to put every person that's been in the business for 35 years isn't willing to push the envelope, and not every millennial is tech savvy and wants to collaborate, but right. These are definitely generalities. I think the advantage for you, though, John, is when you go out and recruit these millennials, when you bring them into your office, it resonates with them. And that's what we've built here with this particular office, is when people come through the front door and they see the collaborative environment, the paperless environment that we've built here, right. It either makes sense for them or it doesn't make sense for them. I think where a lot of brokers are going to have a problem moving forward is when you bring these recruits into your office, they stare at a receptionist in a bunch of individual offices, and they go and they see the demographic, all 6 years old, and they're out. For you, with the average age being down to 44 inside the RE/MAX brand, it's not that the RE/MAX brand is an older brand. It's when your office is full of older agents, it's hard to appeal to the 35-year-old. Mm-hmm. And so, on that note, Jason, has has your input, since you've taken over that franchise, has the way your office looks, has that changed from the way when you first got there?
It's evolving, I'll say that. And what's very interesting is even from a local, regional perspective, we see a very different appeal to different agents, whether it's in the North Shore of Massachusetts where we are, or if it's on the seacoast of New Hampshire where we have offices. The agents act and work differently from a standpoint of what they expect out of an office. Our philosophy overall is to make sure that we have admin support in every office, but we are more, we'll call it virtually based. We do have the technology and the paperless atmosphere and all those things to make us more virtually based and ensure that the agents can work anywhere, but in all of the physical spaces that we have, we make sure that we have that admin support to work with the agents, etc. So all of the offices we have are a little bit different from a standpoint of what they look and feel like. A lot of the agents around here, they still like to go into offices. They still like to sit at a dedicated desk. It's been quite interesting. And frankly, Michael, you and I talked about it when we first came into the business. I learned some hard lessons in that, I thought we could have one main office for a 30, 35-mile radius, and through the use of technology and everything that I loved and wanted to implement, we could recruit and have agents work differently. And I realized that that really wasn't the case. So after about a year and a half, we needed to adapt, and we did. And that's where we needed to, start to put in physical locations in other areas to suit the agent need.
But just on that note, Jason, the fact that you saw what you wanted, your agents wanted, and you adapted and you went to them is the mindset that a lot of brokers they're just going through the motions. They've been doing it for so long that they're not willing to adapt.
Well, it's interesting, and you're right. And one of the things that I get, I'm not, like John, I don't have a ton of broker experience, right? I'm not listing and selling every day. I'm focused on the other part of the business. My partner, Mark, handles, all of the, we'll call it real estate transaction items. So, I get from agents, well, you haven't walked in my shoes. I got it. But then on the other side, I get from agents, I love the fact that you're not licensed and you're focused on the business and growing it. So it's interesting, right? You can't win either way, and it's good either way. So, but to your point, yeah, I live by the, if it's broken, let's just break it, fix it, try something else, implement it. If that doesn't work, we'll try something else. The days of keeping things, for 30 years are gone. Even for, a year or two are gone. So we need to be willing to change all the time.
And that's a muscle, Dave, that we've talked about on the show a lot. Like, once you get comfortable being in change or get comfortable being uncomfortable, it's not uncomfortable anymore, but it is a muscle you've got to flex.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about it always at the agent level. You've heard, thin the herd.
Yeah.
We use that term on here many, many times, and it's the same for broker owners. If they don't start adapting to some of these new things and changing their culture the way we're going, it seems to me, that they better put their arms around it, or we're going to have a lot of turnover in that system, because these offices that have the average age of 60 years old, it's right around the corner. They're all going to be gone, and they're not recruiting new agents that are doing the new things that we talk about here, and the things that you have to do. It's just a matter of time, and time is clicking real fast in our business. Rapidly. It's changing as we're sitting here.
Yeah. And on that note, if you're a broker owner and you're going to be in business 10 years from now, your office will be primarily millennials. That's just by the numbers of the demographic. Now, there'll be 50-year-old millennials, but they'll still be millennials. They'll still have a different attitude towards things. That's inevitable. That is happening. So we did a university when I was back in university. We did an experiment, and so what we did is we got on a bus during rush hour. And we sat next to someone where there was an empty seat. There's only 2 or 3 seats left on the bus. We sat down next to someone, and we observed the reaction of the person and we sat next to them. And there was almost never a reaction. In fact, they moved their purse out of the way so we could sit down, sort of thing. Then we went on the same bus route during a slow time when there was only 2 or 3 people on the bus, and we sat down right next to someone. It freaked them out. Like, why don't we have our own individual space, right? Like, it's just in human nature. But over the last 3 or 4 years, being aware of that experiments, I go into coffee shops all the time where the only people sitting in the coffee shop are sitting at the communal table. we now sit with each other even though we don't know each other, and it's a fundamentally different mindset that we have that I think my generation might not want to be in the office. The older generation wants to be in the office because they want to have their individual cubicle. The millennials want to be in the office because they want to be around people. They want to collaborate. They want to be inspired by people. So on that note, John, the older generation of realtors that have an unbelievable skill set when it comes to salesmanship, experience, all that sort of stuff, have so much value to the younger agent. The younger agent, being a bit more agile and tech savvy, has so much value to give to these older agents. How do you get this collaboration? How do you get agents that think of the millennial as competition and the millennial thinks them as team members? How do you foster, how do you break down those obstacles to benefit not only your seasoned agent but your new agents too as well?
You know, Michael, that's a great question.
Thanks, John.
You know, we struggle with figuring that out. A couple things that we found that have really worked is most of our baby boomers, especially those in their mid to late 60s, technology just isn't ever going to be their thing, and they accept it. We try and pair up one of our newer millennials that knows that market, that knows the part of town that baby boomer is in, and we kind of try to bring them together and get them collaborating on technology, get them collaborating on how you prospect, how you build databases. Because let's face it, the baby boomers are really good at networking and working their sphere of influence, right? Then you've got the millennials who are coming in that get technology, get the digital footprint, etc. One of the best things that we did, I mean, Michael, you mentioned being a paperless agent. We about 2 years ago decided to become a paperless office, and part of what was driving that is we went from doing 1,400 transactions a year to 1,600 to 1,800. This year, like I said, we'll do somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,600 transactions. We didn't want to keep adding staff, and we knew there had to be a solution that was more efficient for the agent, the clients, and also ourselves. And we landed on Dotloop, and Dotloop has been our paperless solution, and we've had a really great, to use your word, Michael, collaboration with them. They've really helped move us forward in that area. But that's a prime example of where our millennial agents can take the whole Dotloop process and explain it to the baby boomers in a very nice way, and they work well in that space together.
Jason, before we jump on the conversation of paperless is where I want this to go next. Have you made any efforts, or do you see the value in having the experienced agent sort of collaborate with a younger agent to each other's benefit?
I definitely do, and I think in our case it's happened more through casual organization versus what we've done. I think we have seen this dynamic of subgroups coming together, whether it be after meetings or, quite frankly, on their own, to teach and share best practices. But to something you said earlier, Michael, what I found interesting is we have some what we'll call baby boomers that are far more technical than some of our younger agents, and vice versa. So it's like, that stereotype of having the millennial just understand everything about social media, etc. We have some fantastic, younger agents that are just great salespeople, but just don't really want to get bogged down with social media, or technology is too much. So it's quite interesting to see the dynamic and the juxtaposition, if you will.
And Dave, you and I are a little bit like that. I mean, I might be a little bit more on the tech side than you are, and probably not the salesmanship that you are, and you're a better salesman seasoned. But we're not that far apart, and I think that's one of the things why the show works is the actual the things that make you a successful agent haven't changed. How we go about them perhaps have, but relationship building and taking care of your client, that hasn't changed, and I don't think it will.
No, it never will. And like you're talking about Dotloop and paperless, it's just a tool, just another tool. You're just doing things a little bit differently. That's all. And so people hear it's technology and they get all freaked out. And it's the change. It's the fact they're doing something different. And you're right. It's still have to go belly to belly at some point. You still got to know how to close them, and you still have to know how to take care of your clients and follow. Those things have nothing to do with technology. And if you don't know how to do that, and that's why they talked about a collaboration between different agents that know how to do these different skill sets. It's a perfect way to build an office.
Jason, you and I were chatting. Let's jump on the paperless conversation. You and I were chatting a couple weeks ago. You said you purchased or acquired one of your offices. I don't know which one. And one of your first order of businesses was to eliminate the filing cabinets. Why? And how did that go?
Well, yeah, I mean, from the day we opened our very first office 5.5 years ago, one of the first things we did after gutting the office is literally carrying all the filing cabinets downstairs and getting them out of here, because I wanted to ensure that we were set up from the get-go to be paperless. So we didn't adopt dot loop until about 2.5 years ago, but before then, we were very much a secure cloud backup of all of our transactions, all of our paperwork. So we were still very much a paperless environment, and it was something that consciously we made the decision to do right from the get-go. I mean, my personal background is technology. I love it. And I think, getting back to our earlier conversations, I think it's part of my responsibility as an owner. I am in my early 40s, so I think I can somewhat bridge the gap between these millennials and the older agents, and vice versa, depending on their technology savvy, if you will, and their willingness to adopt the technology. I'm there to try to kind of educate them, bridge the gap, help them, adopt it slowly, if you will. And that's what we've done in everything that we've put into place, from products and services.
Jason, so you go into an office, you got it to freshen it up, you get rid of all the filing cabinets, your staff comes back, or your roster comes back in. What's the reaction that moment? And now 5 years down the road, what's the reaction of the agents after you do because we've seen paperless sort of come from the agent and head up towards the broker. We don't see it very often come from the broker down to the agent. So what was the initial reaction, and where are you today with that same roster?
So the reaction was quite interesting. I'll just say that. I mean, I literally still have some boxes that agents brought into our office, because that's how they traveled, that's how they worked. I mean, you guys have all seen it. You probably experience it. You have folders, on your passenger seat, and in boxes in the back of your trunk or what have you. And but there are some great, fantastic stories of even older agents that we have that adopted it, were willing to jump on, embrace it, and went from 3 and 4 huge 3-ring binders down to a simple manila folder. When they go back and forth to the office, and it's just a great story. I think overall for us, given that we've opened 3 net new offices and have done a few mergers, it has been quite interesting, because you deal with the cultural impact of how those agents worked before, what they're used to, and then you bring them into how we kind of evolve our processes and what we want them to do, whether it be dot loop, etc. And it takes some time. And what we've done is we've implemented kind of adoption cycle, where we have our admins in each of the office support those agents that are a little bit slower in that adoption cycle, to say, hey, you know what, why don't you scan the PDF over to us, and we'll get it into dot loop, and we'll help you create the first few loops, and we'll help you get going, so that you realize the value add and the benefit to the service and to the solutions that you're using. And then over time they do it. And I think right now we're probably over 85 to 90% full adoption into to dot loop, and we have about 85 agents, so that's pretty good.
John, on that note, we've talked a lot about paperless on the show. Dave's paperless, I'm paperless. I've been paperless for like 8 years, 9 years before. Now it's easy to be paperless, right? It used to be super hard to be paperless. I'm in a paperless office. You have a paperless office. I have yet to see the success rate for a paperless agent, in my opinion, is 100%. In fact, you and I sat on a panel at R4 about paperless. You walked into the presentation about 2 minutes before the mics got turned on, because you were out ziplining, and you said that you were approving deals in the car back to R4. I have yet to see an agent go paperless, back out, and then go back to paper. It's got a 100% success rate. If there's an advantage for the client, clearly there is. If there's an advantage for the agent, clearly it is. We have 2 owners that say absolutely paperless is an advantage. How come in 2015 isn't every real estate office paperless?
That's the million-dollar question, Michael, and I think part of it goes back to some of the demographics you started out with. The average broker is north of 60 somewhere and is petrified of letting go of those paper files, in my humble opinion. With that said, they're not leading the charge in most cases, like Jason is, like we're trying to do here. They're letting the agents, in many cases, bring that technology into the office, and then they're attempting to react to it rather than take the technology and lead with it. There's a huge difference there. When we jumped into dotloop as Remax Preferred, I also took it to our local realtor association and said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we standardized with a product that all companies supported by our local realtor association could be utilizing, so that as we're doing co-op transactions back and forth, we only need to learn one technology. And our local realtor association approved that, and it's really helped with adoption not only in my company but across the entire marketplace, Michael.
Yeah, Dave, you're a dot looper, but I think you're a dot looper from agent first, broker second, opposed to Jason. We're paperless, get on board sort of a thing. So how is that being a different? What would it be like if your broker came in and said, guys, this is it, we're paperless, we're all on the same page? How would it be a different for you and your business, opposed to sort of it being a reverse, the way that many agents all throughout North America have gone, sort of agent first, broker second?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I really don't know, because it was the other way around, but I can sort of envision it in a way. If the broker just came to us, I knew nothing about paperless. I wasn't exposed to any of this, and said, we're doing this tomorrow. I imagine there could be some resistance. I can tell you, it's hard for me to do that, but I can tell you that looking around me in the office I work in, that some of the reactions have been have been like, really? They're still resistant, some of them, and it's hard. It's harder for them because they just don't want to put their arms around it, and it's a no-brainer for me. It's kind of a difficult question, Michael. I saw it early on. I did it. We were doing dotloop before our office did. Then our office did it. Our broker was progressive enough to know how to put it together, but there's still resistance there, and I guess it's because of the age or just change. It's like everybody, I don't care who you are or what you're talking about, change is difficult for everybody.
Mike, Michael, I think the other element to this, Michael, is that you have to, again, as an owner, we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help facilitate that change. So it's one thing to say, hey, this is dotloop, watch a webinar, right, and figure it out, but we try to have a repetitive process from a training perspective. We even flew dotloop out here a few months ago, actually, maybe in May, to have a brokerage-wide training to facilitate and kind of follow up to some of the webinars that have been done by office. We actually brought on a dedicated trainer as of the middle of October that will help train on those types of solutions as well. But we have to make sure that we do everything that we can for those agents to want to adopt that change. It's one thing to just say, yeah, we're paperless and try this. It's with any product or service that you offer, right? Anything that can help make that agent better, sell more, make them service their customer better, and make them more efficient. We need to be able to bring those tools, but help them adopt those tools more efficiently.
Yeah, and I want to touch on training in a second, and that's, I think, where the model of the broker is going to become extremely important, especially with progressive-minded agents. If you're a broker, like you said, John, early on, is 67 and scared of change, and there's a broker down the street that's 42 and is excited, that's going to make recruiting difficult because people are going to. We are changing. On that, before we get into training, which is where I want to go next, because it's a very, very interesting topic, because it's definitely changed dramatically in the last 10 years. Talk about communication, and one of the things, John, I've been following you for a long time. I think what you do is great. Every Monday morning you do Monday Morning Mojo, and I think when you see your broker owner doing video, doing social, doing that sort of stuff, it's sort of a lead by example. It makes it less intimidating because they know how easy it is. Talk about the value of Monday Morning Mojo, why you do it, what the reaction has been.
Okay, thanks, Michael. You know, you kind of inspired me to begin that, to be honest with you. So, you know, the flattering continues here. But it's been a lot of fun, and it hasn't been difficult to come up with a topic every Monday. As I travel, if I'm at a conference somewhere, I pull somebody in front of the camera with me, and you know, and we record one for the next Monday. And it's typically 2 minutes is what I try and shoot for, so that it's short, it's quick, it makes a point, and gets on. I bomb video that out to several different databases, post it on, you know, social platforms, and of course share it with my own people. But to your point, Michael, when folks inside my organization see that I'm using it and I'm doing something with it, it makes it easier for them to embrace the same kind of thing and you know, begin using it in their own businesses in their own way. You know, most of the technologies that are out there have become so much easier to work with in the last 36 months. Even Google Hangout that we're on, it's so much easier today than it was 18 months ago, right, Michael? Right, David?
Yeah, except for this morning, Dave. Except for this morning.
But you know, so many of the technologies have become so much more streamlined, so much more plug and play. So you know, I still think there's a lot of folks though that are still intimidated, and they don't realize how easy it is to use it. So when the broker's doing it, it makes it that much easier for the agents to plug in.
Jason, on the topic of communication as a business guy, you've talked a lot about the importance of having admin staff within each one of your office, not to go sort of, you know, completely satellite office. What's your structure for communication, and what role does the change in technology play in the way you communicate with your agents?
Actually, I love John's idea of the Monday Morning Mojo. That's pretty cool, and we are actually in the middle of a 2-part video training with our Integra region, because I'm a huge believer in video. I actually just jumped on the bomb train, probably a year too late, but I really want to be able to implement that, because I think with 6 offices and people all over the place, it really helps to put, you know, a face to the message. And as much as you try to get to all the different offices and communicate in person, I think it's going to only benefit. But I think overall communication, I'm known for my detailed emails, probably not known in the right way, but I try to over-communicate. I think I know as agents, you guys probably love seeing emails from your broker owners, and I try to really keep it succinct and keep communicating things that are only important and that specifically impact their business. And I just try to follow that up all the time with, you know, either phone calls, texts, things like that, just to make sure that people know I'm here for them. I mean, again, it gets back to my earlier point. I mean, if I'm not here for the agent and they ask me to do something, or I follow up on, yeah, I need to be here. I need to be responsive. So we try to keep that communication line open with my operations manager, with our admin support team, my partner, and I.
Let's talk training, because John, just before we actually clicked on the air, you were talking about how you weren't here. There was a guy in your seat named Chris before you got here, because you were stuck at a red light. And we chatted a little bit, and I asked about their role in the office, and their role probably didn't exist 10 years ago. And I think the broker's role definitely has changed as the business has too as well. So what is your focus when it comes to training, John? And on that note, what are the pain points for an agent in 2014, 2015 versus pain points of an agent in 2002?
Wow. Let me jump in with pain points. You know, in 2002, I think so many agents were concentrating on helping buyers find the right property. You know, like maybe 70% of their effort was spent researching and showing properties, and 30% of 30% of their time was, you know, doing the transaction and keeping it together. And I think that somewhat reversed itself. I think the major pain point in today's world has become keeping the transaction together and working through inspection issues and working through appraisal issues and really consumer expectation issues, which is maybe a whole other show, Michael. But I mean, you guys are in the field. You have to know what I'm talking about. Consumers have such a higher degree of expectation from us than we've ever seen before. So I think that's almost the #1 pain point is working our way through the transaction and meeting that expectation. You mentioned Chris, training, admin, all around go-to guy. He really helps me out a lot in a lot of those areas. He got you mixed up with Chris Smith in the water cooler, so he thought we were drinking today and had a bottle of vodka lined up, Michael. So I told him I appreciated the effort, and at any rate.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, Chris is good.
Those guys drink beer. We're going heavy duty here.
All kidding aside, we do a lot of different training, and we try and hit a lot of different people in different ways. We have a Friday tips and tricks every Friday at 10:30, where we take an aspect of the business and we train on that. Every Friday we do a lunch and learn, which is typically vendor driven. We do a lot of new agent training, and I don't know that it'll come through well on the camera, but this is sort of our outline that we use for our new agents when we recruit millennials or new agents, and the different steps that we put them through really for the first 8 months that they're licensed. So we have a lot of different training at different levels to meet the different types of people in our organization and where they're at.
And before we get to Jason on the same topic, on that, I'm always surprised at the amount a broker focuses on recruiting versus retention, and training speaks to both. It speaks to actually saying, here's what we're going to do to make you a good agent, and now that we have you, we're going to make you successful so you stay in the business, because I don't know what the stats is. 80% don't make it to year 2, or 70% don't make it to year 2, and probably not that in the RE/MAX program. I'm sure the RE/MAX stats are quite a bit different, but you guys are clearly focusing on not only let's get these clients in, or these agents in here, let's train them, let's make them successful so that they have 30-year careers.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Okay, so Jason, on that note, where are you with training, and what are some of the pain points that your agents are experiencing right now, and how are you going about through training to make sure that those are eased as best as possible?
I think it's similar to John from a standpoint of what the agents face every day, but I think some of the other things that maybe I'm a little bit more keen to because I'm not in the field, so to speak. It's the building the business as an agent, right, and treating your business as a business. And what are the things that are getting in my way of being productive and efficient as a realtor? And is it technology? Is it social media? I mean, a lot of times, these agents are drinking from the fire hose, right? It's how do I present myself to customers? Not only how do I handle the transaction, but how do I get my name out there? How do I present? How do I leverage technology? What blog do I do? What social media sites should I concentrate on? And of the 15 or 20 that are out there, things like that. So that's kind of what we've slanted our training to. We actually, in the past, and we still do it, RE/MAX of New England, RE/MAX Integra has been instrumental in our training schedule and our regimen. We have at least a quarterly session with the training corporate staff with RE/MAX of New England, and they have been invaluable in my 6 years as an owner. But I would say about a month ago, we actually brought on a dedicated person to do training. And then to your comment on retention, Michael, I think one of the things and aspects of her role is when a new agent comes and joins our brokerage, she transitions that agent in. She does probably 2 or 3 one-on-one coaching and training sessions to get them acclimated to the tools, the RE/MAX tools, technology, etc. And then as needed after that, and then does a monthly round-robin training with all of our different offices. We actually just completed a catch-up round-robin on the RE/MAX technology and tools, and then we'll go into a full training schedule thereafter. But it's all about retention. It's all about making these agents better at their jobs and helping them succeed. That's why we're doing it.
Dave, on that note, you train on a micro level, probably a lot more hands-on, being a team leader. Where do you find, where has the pain points changed for agents, over the last 10 years, and where do they really need that help to make sure that they're being successful?
Well, it's all the change we're talking about. 10 years ago, it was nothing was different. It was nothing different for 50 years behind that. How you work with buyers and sellers, how you farmed, all those kinds of things. Today, a broker owner who does not try to bring newer, younger agents in and provide training for them about all these new things that are taking place is only destined to fail at some point. I mean, hats off to these two guys. I have to say that both of you in the Integra region, you have Valerie Garcia, who, everybody knows how I feel about her. She's like phenomenal at what she does, and having training like that is so important.
But look at these two. These two owners are pushing things forward. They've in the last few years said, "Hey, let's bring training right inside a house." I mean, this is a mindset that we haven't seen beforehand. I think it's a mindset we're going to have brokers see, going forward. So, I love the fact these guys are leading the charge because I think this is all going to be inevitable for all the brokers, and like we said before with agents, you are going to go video, you are going to be paperless, so do it, be the leader, and John and Jason will benefit by being the leader because they're going to get the recruits that the other agents can't, or the other brokers can't get because they're not offering these tools. On that note, one last topic before we let the two of you guys go: culture.
Yes.
John, being paperless, having the Starbucks lobby in your office, Monday morning mojo, Friday morning, Friday lunch, how does all of this impact culture inside your office, and what is the actual benefit to the individual agent to be in an office that has great culture?
We keep using the word collaboration, Michael, but really, that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is collaboration. A lot of our newer, younger folks, they're interacting with some of our more tenured agents that maybe don't want online leads. I mean, they get leads from Remax.com or Trulia or Zillow. A lot of the more tenured, very successful agents don't want to take the time to incubate those leads, right? I think we probably all see that. So it's perfect for our newer, younger folks to interact with those guys. Maybe they get a little, the existing agent, or the tenured agent gets a little referral fee out of it. Maybe they don't. But at the end of the day, they're interacting and they're passing some of those back and forth. I also remind our newer folks that, hey, if you have a tenured agent that's giving you leads, be there to help them with holding opens on Sunday. Be there to help support their practice and pick up some business for yourself along the way as well. So those kinds of things are so important. Michael, I know when we were at R4, I think I had 26 or 25 agents that traveled to R4. I mean, those kinds of experiences are invaluable because they get to know each other on such a personal level. It's not just being at the office. It's, playing until 3 in the morning Las Vegas time, right?
Yeah. Jason, on that note, what's the impact of culture in your office? You've obviously gone in there in 2008, changed things dramatically. That has to affect culture. I don't think culture ever successful bottom up. It has to come top down. What has the impact of the culture been for you and your agents?
Well, I tell you what, it's I want agents to know first and foremost that I have their back as an owner, and given our philosophy and strategy with growth in mergers and acquisitions and bringing different offices and merging offices into ours and opening new offices, I am very cognizant of culture and making sure that from office to office and at the very core, our culture is at least tries to be uniform throughout, right? I mean, I know that each region has their own little uniqueness and identity, if you will, and I don't want to lose that. But our overall corporate culture and philosophy, to me, it's all about attitude. It's about philosophy. It's about wanting to move forward. It's about growth, and making sure that the agents see that we're going to be there to give them the air cover that they need to build their business and succeed. And that's the only thing. That's what's important to me.
Michael, can I jump in with one more thing on that?
Absolutely.
I know this may not come through very well, but it's our core values. And when we sit down with new folks, this is one of the places we begin at when we're talking to brand new agents. First conversation, we tell them that these are the core values. These are the things that that are our company's touch tones, and we try and live by these. And we try and follow that old don't hire your problems philosophy. If the person we're talking to doesn't fit our culture and doesn't fit our core values, there's no point bringing them in because that disruptive influence can rot your business from the inside out.
Yeah, it's interesting. You actually write those down. There's an agent out here in the Fraser Valley, actually part of Remax Little Oak, a different office with us. He's got a really, really big team. He must be like 10 of them on a team or something like that. And they have their own office, like own entrance, own everything. And it's hard to be in his office without seeing on the wall, framed, like throughout the office, their core values. Like it's just so always present in what their beliefs are. And it definitely, when you go in there and you sit down with them and talk with them, you see that comes out. I mean, Dave, you guys are called the Enviro Realty Team, and Enviro means environment, which basically your definition of how you guys phrase culture, right? So not only culture for you and your agent, but the culture that the experience of having your clients go through with you. Talk about culture and the value and the impact that having great culture has impacted on your business.
Well, look, I like to have fun, and I like things to be all of a positive nature. So the culture on our team, for the most part, is the right environment is everything.com. That's our website. It's Enviro Realty Team, and it's important to me. It's important to Vanessa. And if you want to be on our team, we have to have a good experience. This whole thing has to be fun. And if it's not fun, we don't enjoy coming to work. I mean, that's our culture, and I'm not going to do it. I'll go do something else, because there's a lot of other things I like to do. But I'm having fun doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to surround myself with people like me who like to do the same thing. And the only issues we've ever had have been, when that sort of gets skewed a little bit. So it's paramount for us. It's important that it's just fun. That it's fun.
Last question for John and Jason, and we'll let you guys go. It is at the end of the year. It is commonplace for predictions this time of the year. So, John, let's start with you. Looking forward, what does your office look like, function like, 5-10 years from now?
Wow, that's a loaded question.
Long ways out.
One of the things we haven't touched on, but it's really central to the question you just asked, is the contact management system, CRM system, and I know that's another dialogue for another day, but it hit me this year in 2014 that so many of my agents aren't using a CRM. And I sat out along with Chris that you met earlier. We sat out to begin looking at CRM systems because we felt like the best thing that we can do next for our agents to make sure that they're on top of the business in 5 years from now is to help them find a CRM system that suits them and their business and their personality, and then help them implement it and get it going. If it means that we need to have an admin person, take their database and load their database into a CRM system so they start using it, we're making that commitment to do so because we feel that strongly about it. Most agents in our industry, even the ones that are making 6 digits and up a year, aren't using a CRM system. That just blows my mind.
It's shocking. It's shocking. John, we did a whole series on CRMs on this show, and we surveyed a bunch of agents, and the majority of agents, good agents, aren't using a CRM. It's shocking.
Yeah, one of my top agents, super successful guy, Michael. He makes a lot of money. He's using top producer discs that haven't been supported in more than a decade. I'm not exaggerating.
I remember those. You could only load it on one computer.
Yeah.
Jason, to you, your offices have gone through dramatic change. Maybe not even just from a physical perspective. What do your offices look like 5-10 years down the road?
I think from a standpoint of physical locations, we'll probably slow down to this point. We have 6 now, and I want to make sure that we only open up physically in locations that can be supported by agent population growth, et cetera, and if it really makes sense. So I think that's going to slow down a bit. But I just want to be able to continue to reinvest back into the businesses, into the office, into the resources that will directly impact and or support the agent base. And I want to be the #1 RE/MAX in New England. That's the goal.
Fantastic. Dave, I know you probably got a bunch of them because it's so refreshing. So refreshing to hear these two. And so, give me your takeaway there, Dave.
Well, how important the broker owner's job is going forward in our franchise. Years ago, it's always been important, but nothing's changed. Now, the broker owners need to really, it's the toughest job in the system. It's the most rewarding if you do it right. I've been a broker owner, so I know, guys. and it's the toughest job. And going forward, it's real important. My hat's off to you guys, and I just hope there are other broker owners that are watching the show to kind of take up the way you guys are doing stuff and embrace some of this stuff, because it's so necessary that the company's going to keep growing and keep being number one, that we bring in a whole new group of people with all new ideas. Things are changing. You just talked about 5 to 10 years. I don't know how you can possibly even answer that question, because 6 months from now, it's going to be, you're not even going to know the business 6 months from now, let alone 5 years from now.
But isn't it interesting, because in 1992 when I got my license, in 1993 when I got my license to John at 19 years old, I didn't predict any change. Like I didn't foresee, there wasn't like, oh, when this comes. I mean, the biggest change for me was when I could get my pages on my cell phone. I remember I could give up my pager. That was monumental. But then nothing changed. I mean, the fax machine really was the biggest change our industry saw for like 15 years. Was the fax machine. And so you're right. I mean, 5, 10 years from now is so far away. It's tomorrow. So I hope there's RE/MAX brokers. And brokers all over this amazing industry that has been so good to Dave and myself. You know, we see a lot of agents change. It's so refreshing to see these brokers because it is about culture. When we moved, our team moved 3 years ago. We looked for a broker. I mean, we were looking for a broker that would provide culture, provide training, provide experience, provide the right attitude. I like coming to work. I like being around the other agents. And so it's very, very important moving forward for this business. John, thank you so much for. I've wanted to have you on the show for a really long time. We went over time here. I appreciate it, John. You're the best. Definitely see you, I guess, next at R4.
Sure.
I appreciate it. Jason, will you be at R4?
I'm hoping to be. Yep. Got to check out the schedule, and I'm planning on it.
Fantastic. Jason, thank you so much for coming on. I'm glad that you didn't have your camera on so we could focus on the incredible New England accent for the last hour. I appreciate that. But on that note, John, how do people get a hold of you? How do people send referrals out to your guys? Let's do that first. How do people get a hold of your squad?
Sure. How about we go with johnmangas.com, JOHNMANGAS.com, or if it's easier, just Google Metro Toledo John, and you'll get a bunch of hits on me.
Fantastic, and I will be Googling Holy Toledo, and I'll update our audience. Jason, how do people get a hold of RE/MAX Insight and you guys up there in New England?
Just remax-insight.com.
Fantastic. Thanks, John. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. Next week's show, we have Seth Price from Playster coming on. That will be December the 12th. 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. That'll be our last show of 2014. We will return mid-January. If you have any referrals heading out to the East Coast of the United States, get a hold of Dave. He'll put you in the hands of the right RE/MAX agent. If that referral is going up to New England, I'm sure it's going to a RE/MAX Insight agent, I would imagine. If you've got any referrals coming out to the West Coast of Canada, get a hold of me. I'll put you in the hands of the right RE/MAX agent. And as Melanie Gallia of RE/MAX Fort McMurray wants us to end every show, please tell 5 other RE/MAX agents about the show. We grow every week. It's been a phenomenal year. We'll get sentimental next episode, Dave. Lets us reach out to people like John and Jason and give an hour of your time. Awesome show, guys. I appreciate it very much. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, John. Thanks, Dave.
Jason.
Everybody.
Forward to seeing you guys at R4.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.